I'd like to officially welcome you to the opening of the exhibit of Corky Lee's work. And I'm going to start just by thanking all of the many organizations and people that made this exhibit possible. The photos did not jump up onto the wall themselves. So thank you to the Asian Pacific Studies Institute, John Hope Franklin Center, the primary sponsors of the exhibit. Thank you also to the History Department and the Asian American and Diaspora Studies Program for co-sponsoring the exhibit. Thank you to the wonderful team of staff at the Asian Pacific Studies Institute, Heidi Rodefer, Renate Kwan, and Alex Nickley, who helped conceive the idea of this. The staff of the John Hope Franklin Center, Rhiannon C. and Erin Dillard, who unfortunately cannot be here today as she's recently lost a loved one. Like to thank Mae Ngai, of course, which is part of the reason we're having this exhibit, Eileen Chow, and Placenta Dwar for hosting, Professor Ngai. Thanks to the Corky Lee estate for permission to use these photos, including Virgo Lee and Chi Wong, and thank you to Junru Huang for the film that is playing over there, which I encourage you to check out. So, with that out of the way, what I'm going to do is just try to convince, I'm a historian, I'm going to try to convince you that there is a lot of history behind these photos that I hope to persuade you should be interested in. Corky Lee was everywhere taking photos of big moments, of intimate moments, and because of that, his photos challenge and expand our idea of what Asian American history is. So, to start with, taking this photo of Lily Chin, right here. I'm wearing a button that says Justice for Vincent Chin. Many of you may have already heard of the Vincent Chin case. Vincent Chin is a young Chinese-American man on the eve of his wedding, who was beaten to death by two auto workers in Detroit, Michigan on June 19th, 1982. Neither of his killers, even though they were both convicted, neither of them served jail time. And it was later discovered that one of the men had told Vincent, quote, "It's because of you little MFers that we're out of work," end quote. So mistaking Vincent for someone who is Japanese and then blaming Japanese for the travails of the U.S. auto worker in this U.S. auto workers at that time. So the Vincent Chin case became a flashpoint for activists. It became kind of the paradigmatic example of what anti-Asian hate crimes looked like. And the photo here is a portal into that history, but it also does more. It reminds us of the central role that women in particular played in the movement. Lily Chin, who immigrated in 1947, had worked with her husband in a laundry and then later in a factory, also at a restaurant. Lily Chin was a tireless speaker. She spoke on talk shows, she spoke at community meetings, she spoke at rallies. Her work, along with other women like Helen Zia, was what really propelled the case to the forefront of consciousness for so many people across this country. But Corky Lee's photos also help us understand that there is a broader and deeper history of anti-Asian violence that goes beyond the Vincent Chin case. So let's take the Navroz Modi. Let's start with Peter Yu. Before Vincent Chin, there was Peter Yu. What's the story of Peter Yu? May of 1975, Peter Yu, who's not pictured in this photo, but Peter Yu is walking through Chinatown in New York. He sees police officers that are assaulting a 15-year-old. He tries to intervene. The police officers take him into the police precinct and assault him and then arrest him. And then the resulting outrage draws thousands of Chinese Americans into the streets of New York. This is a photo of one of the protesters who is himself brutalized at the anti-police brutality protest. And this is, as Professor Ngai said, one of the kind of first photos that kind of established Corky as a photographer with a huge audience. Before Vincent Chin, there is Peter Yu. And after Vincent Chin, we have Navroz Modi. On September 27, 1987, a group of young men beat Navroz Modi to death as he's leaving a cafe in Hoboken, New Jersey. And this attack comes just 3 days after Kaush al-Sharan was beaten unconscious on the streets of Jersey City by a group that included an off-duty police officer and the son of a former chief of detectives. Right? So this is a period, it's impossible to exaggerate that this was a period experienced by many in the South Asian community as a reign of terror. Right? There was a letter to a local newspaper, the Jersey Journal, published a letter just before these attacks, which said, quote, "We will go to any extreme to get Indians to move out of Jersey City. If I'm walking down the street and I see a Hindu and the setting is right, I will hit him or her." Okay, so this was published as an announcement to the community in the Jersey Journal. And of course, there is resistance to this terror, right? There is resistance to the violence, and that is what Corky Lee captured. This sign, Indian Youth Against Racism, isn't just a declaration that there are Indian Youth Against Racism. It is the name of an organization that was galvanized by these events and brought people together in order to try to stop it, right? These photos, I would say, just even those 3 photos teach us that anti-Asian violence is not exceptional. It doesn't just happen when there's a pandemic or when there's some major attack, like on September 11th, that it is a part of our history, and that it is not just about individual acts of racism, it's also about the history of state violence. Right? It's also about state violence, how state violence affects Asian people. History in these photos is not always simple. It's not always a story of oppression and resistance, and I want to point us to the story of Bong Jae-jong here in this photo. Bong Jae-jong is the owner of the Red Apple grocery store in the Brooklyn neighborhood of Flatbush. In January of 1990, an altercation between Jong's brother, Bong Ok-jong, who was a manager of that grocery store, and a Haitian customer, Ghislaine Philissant, led to allegations that Bong Ok-jong had assaulted Philissant. As a result, Black Power organizations in New York launched a 16-month boycott against the Red Apple grocery store, as well as another grocery store that they thought was related to the Red Apple, but actually wasn't. A complicated story. Bong Ok-jong was eventually acquitted of the assault in court. It remains, I believe, unclear what exactly happened during that altercation. And Asian American Studies professors today still debate how should we understand the boycott. Was it a form of anti-Asian racism? Was it fundamentally about Black empowerment? Was it something in between? And so we can look at this photograph. I never saw this photograph before this exhibit. It's an amazing photograph because I think it asks us what we find in it if we know the history. Do we find a visual representation of someone caught in a tragic moment? Do we find someone that is engaged in evasiveness and complicity? Is it a portrait of resilience? Is it something else? I don't think there are easy answers for us here, but it is these kinds of questions that Corky Lee's photos raise for me, at least. So this is just to give you a taste of the history behind these photos, and I'll let you uncover the stories that lie behind the other portraits of protest, of joy, of dignity, and ambivalence in this collection. Images of Mine Okubo here, Grace Lee Boggs, the Miss Saigon protest, the struggle for bilingual education. It's because of Corky Lee's tireless efforts to document our lives that we have these snapshots, which are vistas onto Asian American history, which turns out to be far more interesting and vital and complex than we could have envisioned. Thank you.